Welcome to the Ground and Pound cast, ladies and gentlemen. It was a night of bad calls and low blows that ended in an astonishing amount of blood on the floor of the octagon. I'm here with Ranger Rick, and this is your host for today, Nostradamus. I'll just go by Roy. We are missing Vince today, so help us all that we get through this. Rick, how are you doing?
I'm doing all right. That was a very weird card, I'll have to say. Probably the weirdest of the year.
Absolutely crazy. We saw some things that I've never seen before, but we'll talk about them as we get to them, right?
That's correct.
You got anything before we jump into it, or should we jump right into Brendan Allen versus RDR?
Yeah, I say let's just jump right into it. We can break it down. A lot of things I have to discuss.
This fight left me feeling hollow inside, a pit in my stomach that could not be filled. I'm very happy that our Louisiana boy went out there and showcased what he really could do. But who quits on the stool?
When do you ever see that? And now we're talking about a guy who's a fight away potentially with I'd say a significant finish to be able to put himself in a situation where he could fight Chimaev. He's right there. He's got everything. He's on the doorstep. And what does he do? He quits. He sits on the stool and says, no mas. You have one round left. He looked gassed going into the fourth round. And what did he do in the fourth round? He immediately went for the takedown and got it. He took Brendan Allen's back. So if anything, give it a go, man. Just to sit there on the stool with everything on the line. Dana White has to be pulling whatever hair he might have out of somewhere because that was ridiculous.
Absolutely. It's funny you bring up Chimaev because Brendan Allen basically fought this like Chimaev light, holding that top control, ground and pound. Could you imagine if it had actually been Chimaev that RDR was fighting? He might have
No,
died.
he might have. I wrote this down. In the third round, there was a significant ground strike advantage of 42-5 Allen to RDR. So just to go to your point, what's Chimaev going to do if that's what Allen is doing to you? And no disrespect to Allen. He's a great fighter. Top 10 guy, coming off a big win in New Orleans against Vittori. He's been top 5 before. He'll probably be top 5 again. But as we know, Chimaev is just a different level. And if he could get dominated like that, Chimaev would just have a field day.
The thing about writing stuff down, you're going to love this. My initial note for this fight was Vince would call this a 10-8. It's got to be miserable being stuck in that body triangle. RDR
Oh, yeah.
absolutely dominated.
Yeah, he did. He had that body triangle locked up in multiple rounds, just squeezed the life out of him, took the air out of his lungs. And really, I mean, again, significant strike advantage, ground time advantage. There was a point in the fourth round where they showed he had a 2-1 control time advantage. He really, after the first round, he just asserted himself. Now, to RDR's credit, he came out, he looked good in the first round. He looked to be the guy that everybody was talking about. That was a very clean 10-9 round. I don't think anybody could see that any other way. But the gas tank for RDR, I did not realize was not quite there. And as the fight went on, he just showed to be more and more tired. I mean, after the third round, I thought they were going to call it, to be honest. They're talking to him on the side. It looked like he was done. And I knew after the fourth round, he wasn't getting off that stool.
I was surprised that he got up off the mat. That's what I was looking for. I thought he would just be so exhausted he'd give up in the middle of the octagon.
It looked like it. I mean, they very well could have called it right there. I think after you don't get up for a solid 2 or 3 seconds, they'd have every right to call it off. I mean, if you don't have enough energy to stand up, you don't have enough energy to fight.
Yeah, we've got to look at these fighters' safety. And speaking of fighter safety, let's move on to Holland versus Malott. Oh my God.
Oh, oh man.
Kevin Holland had a terrible first round. But what gets me is their willingness to let him continue after 5 minutes on the mat and not being able to answer if he was okay or not.
Yeah, if the fighter's not going to tell you he's not okay, that doesn't mean he's not okay. It's really true. The guy is not going to tell you, no, I can't do it. I mean, we're talking about Kevin Holland. We're talking about a guy who is right there with Merab as the most active fighter in the UFC. He's not scared. He's not afraid, but that's legitimate. You're getting kicked right there. A sensitive region, as we all know. and to get kicked multiple times. And I mean, I've talked about it on previous podcasts, but it really does drive me insane. Just make it like if you get kicked there, you remove a point. Let's take out all the, oh, this is a warning, this is a firm warning. What happened was he had a clear disadvantage. Kevin Holland was at a clear disadvantage taking illegal blows. They let Mallet continue to just, and I mean, and then after the second kick, even he had a close third kick. It just seemed like if you want to talk about fighter safety, there was no regard for Kevin Holland. And he's done too much for this company, the UFC, to just put him out there in a bad, compromised position. He clearly wasn't able to move as well. He clearly was holding his groin. He had issues. It should have been stopped. There was a 5-minute stoppage that actually exceeded. It went to 5:15. I mean, to be technical, they should have called it right there. Any ref worth his merit should have seen, we can't continue this fight. Fighter safety is supposed to be a thing. It was completely disregarded in this fight.
Absolutely. Could you imagine if they used this level of logic in the emergency room? Sir, can you breathe? Don't answer. Ah, he must be good. Let's not treat him. It would
Exactly.
be the end of everything. If a fight, and then after that, after him sitting down after the 5 minutes and taking the minute break on the stool, he gets up, still holding himself. And what does Mergliata say? If you don't continue, you're going to lose by disqualification. We get what's going on. Kevin Holland is a professional fighter. Like you said, one of the most active professional fighters in the UFC, if not the most active. This was his fifth fight of the year. He knows what's on the line. Don't put extra pressure on the man to risk hurting himself just because you want to see a fight go on. You're supposed to be there to ensure his safety, not manipulate him into doing something dumb.
Yeah, agreed. I mean, Dan Miragliotta had a rough night, and I don't really know how they judge these refs. We've seen obviously some of the same guys for a very long time, but he needs to be looked at. I mean, this was a rough night, and just to continue to let it go, man, it makes you wonder, like, did he have money on this fight? How can you let this continue? I've never seen a fighter more compromised, and yet they just said continue or else you're going to lose the fight. Just terrible. I mean, we're all human. We all make mistakes, but he's got to get looked at. He shouldn't be in any kind of co-main or main event spot for a while. Prelims at best. I mean, and do you age out of it? Is he getting to the point where maybe they just need some younger blood in there, or at least, somebody who's seeing it a little differently, because it makes you question what he's seeing.
Yeah, and it always amazes me when this kind of stuff happens. Daniel Cormier always has the same comment. He's one of the best in the business. Yeah, if you're talking top 100 out of a field that has 50 guys in it.
Right.
But aside from that, Malat fought a decent fight outside of the low blows. Uh, Holland uh, shouldn't have kept going. On top of the low blows, he had to have had one heck of an adrenaline dump, laying there in the middle of the octagon with a million eyes on him while he recovered.
Yeah. Yep. It was a weird fight to say the least. I will say Mallet, he does have really good hands. We've seen that he's explosive. And when he connects, he really can put you down. So for Holland to even make it through with that severely compromised situation, to even see the last bell, that was a miracle and a
Testament.
half. Yeah, I'm a big Kevin Holland fan. Anybody who wants to, put it all on the line every couple of months, you have all my respect. And so just unfortunate to see it end like that. I feel like Holland could have easily won that fight if he were in the correct state. But again, I mean, you're putting yourself in a bad spot. The ref's not helping you out. Doctor isn't helping you out. Nobody's helping you out. And you still make it through some pretty big blows. Mallet was throwing some big left and right hands. I was impressed with his power. I've seen him before. He's definitely a stand and bang type of guy. He's entertaining, but you got to watch where you're putting your feet, man. I mean, to me, it's just inexcusable. And again, when this happens, pull the point. What are we doing? Let's just have some real rules instead of all this gray area. That is something that hurts the brand, in my opinion. It's just a bad look. Why are you putting Kevin Holland in a compromised position for no reason? I just don't agree with it.
Actually, my personal opinion is first time, if it looks accidental, it's an accident. Second time, pull a point. Third time, reciprocal kick, and you forfeit the fight.
I love that.
But In all reality, look at what happened with Drew Dober earlier in the evening. Uh, After the kick heard round the world there, it took him 5 minutes to get up. It was the first time in the fight, ref goes, all right, we'll pull a point 5 minutes later, when at first he gave a warning. He literally changed his mind based on the fighter's reaction. Are we just going to encourage fighters who get touched there to roll around for 5 minutes because it'll give them a strategic advantage? I don't think that's a precedent we want to set.
At all. At all. You know, I was watching some college football yesterday with a buddy, and he mentioned something that I hadn't considered. But last year, when you're playing, if you drop to the ground, they would call a timeout, an automatic timeout. And then this year, they made that a penalty if you faked an injury. And guess what? I'm watching games all day yesterday. Nobody's faking injuries. Yet in the UFC, to your point, you know, you might be encouraging some type of faulty behavior. Nobody wants to see fights get stopped for 5 minutes plus. And I don't think Holland was playing it up. I think he was legitimately hurt and he didn't want to say he wanted to quit, you know? And I mean, kudos to him, but you cannot reinforce bad behavior. And unfortunately, that's what happened yesterday.
Yeah, and the crowd, I don't think they were necessarily booing Holland as much as the situation, but 5 minutes is a long time to just sit and watch. It's an eternity to sit in the ring and then try to get back to what you were doing before your bells were rung.
Yeah, that adrenaline dump is real. You know, when you fight or flight, right? You get in there, you start the fight, you have all this adrenaline rushing, but 5 minutes without, I mean, yeah, it's everything in your body's going to change from your heart rate to the adrenaline, everything. It just changes. And usually you come out flat after that amount of time.
To be honest, with the situation in this one, I would almost want to see a rematch. Because I think that if Holland was able to actually use his legs effectively and use his wrestling, this would have gone a completely different way. But because he took two hard shots to the crotch, that aspect of his game was completely shut down.
But you have to wonder, does Holland really want to rematch a guy who's throwing so many kicks in a questionable area? If I'm Kevin Holland, I have nothing to prove. I get what you're saying, and that would be entertaining, and that'd probably be the right thing to do. But just on a personal level, I wouldn't want to fight that guy.
Yeah, I get it. If somebody hit me there and were like, "You want to fight again?" Nah. You
No, I'm good. You can go
you
fight
take your
anybody else.
pride.
Right.
All right, up next we've got Zahabi versus Cheeto Vera.
Cheeto Vera is one of my personal favorites. I realize he isn't a top 5 guy or top 10 guy anymore, or what have you, but a guy that like I said, we talk about durable, very, very durable. What comes to mind most, people probably would remember when he fought for the title against O'Malley, and O'Malley caught him with a clean knee right up the middle. Sounded like a bat hitting a watermelon, is what Rogan said on the broadcast. He really took one and didn't go down. He had not been taken down at all his whole career, in fact, through that match. Figueiredo fought him and got the first takedown on him, or knockdown rather. But Vera's proven that he can stand there with anybody. Zahabi comes in on a 6-fight win streak. He's a guy that it's kind of like a Ariel Helwani lookalike. When I saw him walk out, I thought that looks like Ariel Helwani if he were athletic. But Vera is known for coming out real slow in fights. It's kind of his trademark, and he finishes strong, and sometimes that gets him in trouble. He came out in the first round, though, and he pushed the pace. And that was something, as a Vera fan, I was encouraged to see. You know, when you have 3 rounds and you throw away the first, you're playing with fire. And so to see him not have that same approach was nice. He's been off for a year. He got time to really get his body right. And the first half of the first round, he really looked good. He had octagon control. He was in the center pushing. Hobby, though, in the second half of that first round, he kind of flipped the script a little bit, and he was the one pushing the pace. I had that as a 50-50 round. Vera, it looked like he had broken or dislocated a finger right there at the end. He was trying to kind of get his finger back in place. A lot of people thought that Zahabi won the round. I thought, like I said, a toss-up. How did you see that first round?
I'm going to tell you, I saw the first round the way I saw all three of the rounds for this fight. This was one of the most even matched fights I've ever seen in my life. And I would have hated to be a judge because at the end, I had no idea who had won on any of them. I was just amazed at the high level. It was like watching a chess match with punches and kicks.
Yes.
It was a
Yes.
masterclass.
It was, man. It really was. So I wrote it down here. First round 50-50. I look at second round, I wrote 50-50. And third round, I had Zahabi landing the heavier strikes, which he did. He showed to have the bigger strikes, the more dangerous strikes, I'd say. He did land a real big left hand going in about halfway through that round that connected. I had Zahabi winning the third round, but by the slightest of margins. I mean, for me to write down 50-50, 50-50, I don't ever do that. And that's kind of the way I saw it. It was a real good back and forth. One guy would go forward and then the other guy would go forward. It was just this dance, this violent dance that they were taking that a lot of good exchanges. And at the end of the second round, this is something I personally like to see. It looked like genuine bad blood. And I do love the fact that there's a lot of respect in MMA and all of the martial arts. But I also like when there's a real competition. We saw Vera kind of headbutt Zahabi there at the end of the second round. And it just kind of like, ooh, this third round, it's a toss-up going into the third. Bad blood's brewing. That fight lived up to the hype. I thought that was very, very entertaining. That's the way I kind of saw that.
I agree wholeheartedly. I've got to watch more of Chino and Zarabi.
Yes, yes, yeah. But there, like I said, Zahabi is coming up, and Vera has been in a bunch of wars, and he's awesome.
Yep. All right, our one women's bouts of the night. We've got Jasmine Jazadabaka. Jazadabaka.
Very good,
You want to
Vince. Very
try it?
good.
You want to try it?
N- no, I think you nailed it.
All right, against Manon Fior. Uh, Started out hard left, and then or started out good on the feet. A hard left came in, and uh, Josaviticus turned into Jello Girl. Like her arms and legs just went limp, not limp, but like jiggly all over. She looked like she was trying to summon Bill Cosby.
The left wobbled her, and on her way down, she caught a knee right up her gut for all her hard efforts. That was a quick fight, right? 72 seconds in, a minute 12 in, it's already over. I didn't
And
really
then
have much on this fight.
no, and then afterwards she tried to argue the stoppage, and it's like we just saw you turn into a semi-liquid form. You don't get to contest this.
You should be thanking the ref. Finally, there was a stoppage that was correct, and if anything, protected the fighter in a big way because it was only going to get a lot worse.
Yeah, and that fight was safe from the curse of the NAD shots this time.
Yeah, that's very true, sir.
All right, up next we've got Jourdain versus Grant.
Yeah. Now, this was entertaining. This wasn't a very long fight, but this was a very entertaining fight. Two flying knees. The second one was probably the most clean flying knee I've ever seen. I mean, he got all of that one right there
Yes.
on the chin. Oh my goodness. That's beautiful. That's how you teach it. So you see Grant come in for the takedown, right? And Jourdain just boom, jumps up, catches him right under the jaw, right on the jaw rather. And after that, it really didn't take much. He finished him with a guillotine, inverted guillotine, but it was really just about those flying knees. Again, not a long fight, but a fun fight. One, if you got 5 minutes, go check it out. It's that good.
In the post fight, he said that he's noticed that was a hole in his defense and was specifically aiming to use the flying knee when he came for the takedown. Like
Yeah, I mean,
that's vicious.
vicious. Of all the ways to go, we talk about the spinning elbow, the flying knees probably, just from a striking perspective, probably, the most pain inflicting or the most likely rather to knock you out. I mean, because you get caught clean on the jaw like that. How many people are even staying awake? Not many.
Well, the way this fight actually ended, the guillotine is like a personal fear of mine. It's why I'll never mess with Vince, is because I'm afraid he'll guillotine me, and I don't want to know what that's like. It looks horrible.
Well, he's the okayest blue belt, so you have a chance. I think you might, be able to slip out. Just depends. Is it early or is it late? Is there sweat involved? Can you slip your head out? Vince is
I
a big
got a
guy,
long
but
neck.
you
I
got a
got a long
chance.
neck.
Well, if you got a giraffe neck, it's over. It's
All
over,
right.
man.
Up next, we have Kyle Nelson versus Matt Frivola. This was the best call of the night.
Up next, we have controversy. My goodness. I hate when the refs, no matter whatever sport it is, but I hate when the refs become the story. That is not what this is about. Should be about two professionals in their element, settling who's better. We have a referee stepping in. We'll get into it. But so the first round, we got Frivola Nelson. Frivola's got a frantic pace. He brings the action. He was giving his back up a lot. He was doing a lot of spinning kicks, but entertaining nonetheless. He put himself in some compromised position, and we saw there at the end of the first round, Nelson takes the back. Nelson ends up where with 3 seconds left, we have Dan Miragliotta step in. He waves his hands out to the side. He didn't raise them up, and maybe that's something we can get into, but he did kind of raise him or put him to the side. He steps in, he gets real close at 5 seconds, comes in at 3 seconds, and says the fight's over. But the fight wasn't over. And we heard in the commentary, they were talking about the celebration. Cormier was talking about he was about to go do the interview, and then he was told he's not going in to do the interview. He was confused. The whole arena was confused. How did you see that?
Congratulated each other. They walked over and high-fived or low-fived each other that the fight was finished. And then to tell him, oops, I made a mistake. He literally admitted he made a mistake. Okay, let me say there's a couple things about this fight. One thing is Nelson looks really good at 155. Coming up from 145, I think, was a great decision. I don't think he would have finished the fight in the last 3 seconds of round one. But if the ref steps in and he stops you from hitting the guy again with time left on the clock, that's the end of the fight.
Period. And we just saw this with the Jake Matthews fight a couple weeks back. Same thing. We were talking about, oh, well, the fight's over. Oh, no, it's not over. How does that make any sense? Can we not have somebody with some common sense sitting there, octagon side? Dana was there. I saw him. Could he not just step in and say, no, you called the fight. It's over. We have to have some common sense take place at some point. And to see
what the ref says has to be the final word. And if the refs are gonna start coming back and saying, well, I screwed up, we can do it this other way, you're not going to be able to trust what the ref says when the ref says the fight's over. Are we going to leave it up to your judgment at that point to stop pounding on somebody? Because the ref's stepping in, but is he really stepping in this time?
Yep. Once you say it, it's final. Once the whistle's blown, the play is dead. It's the same concept. I don't get why we keep having these issues. It seems like something that should get figured out the first time it happens. All right, Dana's going to call a huddle, get all the refs together. Let's have a meeting. When you say something, that matters. When you say something, that's final. Period. Even if you made a mistake, you have to stick with it. It just has to be that way. Otherwise, what are we doing? It's just a real bad look for the UFC.
I agree wholeheartedly. All right, so I know we've been rushing this. I am excited to get to talk about next week's battle, but there's something that I have to address before that, and that's Kyle Pripolek versus Drew Dober. Drew Dober, with this win, broke Dustin Poirier's knockout record, going up to 15 for the division's knockout record.
Wow.
Yeah, that's nuts. To still be on an undercard and hold that kind of record, he's got to move up.
Yeah, you'd have to think. Dober's been around a while, but that guy, he does feel like a gatekeeper, but at the same time, if you're consistently ranked, even if it's 10 to 15, you deserve a lot of credit and you deserve to be put in big spots, especially when you have all those knockouts. Who wouldn't want to see a knockout? He should always be relevant as far as the main cards of these big pay-per-views go because, he's been doing it a long time. I don't have his info pulled up. I know he's got a ton of wins. He's one of your better guys on the roster for sure.
If more of these guys fought at Holland's pace, I bet they would move up a lot more.
Yeah. Dana loves it. And who doesn't like somebody who wants to fight? We're all fight fans. That's why we're here. That's why y'all are listening. You want to see people fight. And I
Well,
mean, Kevin Holland's fun because you're going to see him every couple of months. He's going to bring an entertaining style. And most of the guys that fight that often are entertaining. Even Marab, he's actually made wrestling entertaining. I think people are looking forward to him fighting in December because it's like, oh, he's fighting again. Is he going to dominate again? How does he keep doing this? It's entertaining. The guys who fight every now and then, John Bones Jones, it's like, okay, it just takes the air out of the tires a little bit. Like, okay, I'll see him fight once every 2 or 3 years. Conor McGregor, is he even going to fight again? To me, it gets to a point where that's an extreme example, of course, but people enjoy the people who fight consistently. And yeah, that's
speaking
what
of
we got.
which, speaking of which, the next one we're going to talk about is Aspinall versus Gane. I'm a huge
Ooh.
fan of Aspinall, but the guy hasn't fought in over 400 days. I get he was waiting on Jones, and they kept telling him that Jones was coming, the fight was going to happen. But this is a guy who has openly said for over a year he wants to be active, and the UFC didn't even got in the way of him being active. As champion, I hope that that story's over, and this fight with Gon is the start of a long and very active streak of heavyweight title defenses.
Yeah, the heavyweight division's been lackluster for a while, and Jones certainly held up the division. I don't blame Tom Aspinall at all. He went out and had an interim title fight. He defended an interim belt, which to me is insanity saying that out loud, defending an interim belt. But to his credit, he went out and did that. So he's shown everybody he's willing to fight. It's time to get everything going here. It's time for this fight to happen. Let's talk about the consequences of this fight because I think there's a lot riding on this. I see the heavyweight fight here with Aspinall. The whole division kind of rides on his shoulders. And the reason I say that is because you're fighting a guy in Gon who fought John Jones. And the shadow of John Jones is over this division right now because we know what he did to Cyril Gane. 2 minutes and 4 seconds into their fight, it was over. People are going to look at this fight and judge Tom Aspinall, as unfair as it is. They are going to judge Tom Aspinall. Did he get him out of there in quicker than 2 minutes and 4 seconds? Now, interestingly enough, his average fight time is the shortest in UFC history at 2 minutes and 2 seconds. So on paper, you might say, well, maybe he will. But I think there's a lot riding on it. If Gane were to somehow beat Tom Aspinall after what Jones did to Gane, what happens? Because who's fighting who? We got Jones out there talking about fighting Pereira. Are they really going to fight each other if Gane's sitting out there with the belt when they both would probably be big favorites again in Jones's instance, or Pereira, I believe, would be favored? You got to remember, Gane is a kickboxer. So you're going to have a kickboxer go in there against a two-time Pride champ in Pereira. We all know all of his achievements. Pierre's favored in that fight. I'm sorry, but he is. That's the fight he wants, the kickboxing stand-up, and I think they weigh the same weight. And so anyway, long story short, the way I see it going, Tom Aspinall needs a real quick win here. He needs an emphatic win. And then let's just see who we can get up there and just keep bringing the people up because it's time. This division's been stalled out. Top 10 fighters haven't fought in long periods of time because they don't want to lose their spot in line whenever the line starts rotating again. A lot going on here. So what do you think about it?
So it's interesting. Gon didn't just lose to Jones, but before that, he fought Francis and lost. And he's the last one in the UFC who fought the lineal champion of the heavyweight title belt. So this is the best gauge we can go off of. Now, both Francis and John showed that Cyril had a significant weakness in wrestling. I think that he's been working on that like a Dagestani kid, just nonstop 24/7 for over a year. And he's going to come out there, and at some point in this fight, he's going to go for the double leg. And I'm not saying he's going to get it, but I'm saying he's going to go for it just to shut everyone up about his wrestling. I see this actually ending by submission for Aspinall. I
Wow.
think that he's going to get out there and knock him down and try to rip an arm off, probably an armbar.
Well, he's got 3 submissions. He's got 15 wins. He's got 3 submissions. He's got 12 knockouts, which, of course, 12 plus 3, he has a 100% finish rate in all of his wins. That's astounding. 14 of those were first round finishes. If he could submit Cyril Gane, which I think he very well could, and he can do it in, like I said, that magical number, that 2 minute and 4 second mark, which is going to matter to a lot of people. Wow, that would be the ultimate statement. We know he can knock people out. People don't realize he's a black belt in jiu-jitsu. He really hasn't had an opportunity to kind of showcase his skills. He's fought in just over 40 minutes total in the UFC. That's just over 8 full rounds. How many
Yeah.
people have even seen 4 full rounds of Tom Aspinall? I mean, even the hardcores could have a hard time putting together that many at the beginning of his career. We really haven't seen him. So that's the big question, right? Can he go past the first round? Can he go into the second, third, much less these big title rounds? Will he have the gas tank? I don't give him any discredit or disservice because he's getting people out so fast. I mean, to me, that's a feather in his cap. If you can get people out in 2 minutes, you can get paid the same. Why wouldn't you get them out in 2 minutes? So that's
I,
the way I see it.
I follow Tom Aspinall on YouTube. He went and did the British Royal Marine fitness challenge, and he wasn't even breathing hard. They had him run like 5 miles while carrying a ruck, and he was perfectly fine at the end of it. He wasn't running full out, but he was keeping up with them.
That's terrifying. That's not
Yeah,
supposed to be a thing.
no, this guy is so careful about everything he puts in his body, every motion that he makes. His dad is a world-class jujitsu instructor and nutritionist. He has every advantage that you can have as a heavyweight champion to go on the longest title run that we've ever seen. Not to mention the division's kind of weak right now, making it easier for him to rack up wins. Uh, the thing with Tom is that he's going to go out there and make a statement every time, whether it's how he did it against Volkov and Pavlovich or how he did it against Blades. If something's going to happen, whether it be his leg broken or a knockout or a submission, it's going to happen fast, and you're going to have to keep your eyes open for it because this man is blindingly quick.
Yeah. I was watching the Rogan pod and they were talking about, he was talking with Venom Page and they both agreed he moved like a 185 pounder. He moves like a middleweight. And when you think he's every bit of 255, he's every bit of 255. That is a big human being who is all muscle. He's not fat. He's not a little thick or nothing. He is just muscle. And
This
he's
is a
moving at that
real
rate of speed.
heavyweight. This is a real
He's a,
heavyweight. This is a guy who, in his prime, couldn't have fought at 205 if he wanted to dearly.
yeah, that wasn't a possibility. I mean, he's got a big frame. He's not getting down to 205. That's never going to happen. And so for him to be able to display his skills against Gane, and let's not sleep on Gane. Everybody talks about Aspinall. It's almost like it's a foregone conclusion. Oh, well, Aspinall, when he wins, who's he going to fight? Jones, Pierre. I mean, people have all these ideas about what's going to happen next. Gane is formidable, and
Yeah.
Ngannou couldn't take him out within the distance. They went 25 minutes, and Ngannou hits hard as a truck, and he withstood everything. So it's not to say that Gane's just going to go out there and just lose in 2 minutes. I mean, this
No.
is one of the elites, and so we have to give him some respect. He definitely is one. I don't have his record, but he's like 18-2, and his only losses, of course, were to
13 and 2.
Jones. Yeah, and he's lost to Ngannou, who might be one of the best heavyweight champs of all time. It's a shame he couldn't stay longer with contract disputes. And John Jones, the GOAT by many people's standards. So if these are your only losses, it's not to say, Aspinall is going to run through this guy. He's proven his merit. He's a very, 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 very good fighter. He's got, the kickboxing at an expert level, black belt. And so I see this, if Tom's smart, he's going to try and take him down. He's going to try and take him down quick and early. He'll probably throw a couple punches to set up a takedown. Maybe he can get a double leg and shoot. But if he tries to stand there with Gane, there's a chance he gets caught. It's not that hard to see, maybe, give him a 30% chance, give him a puncher's chance, but Aspinall is going to try and take him down right away. And that's what I look to see. So I agree with your submission. Will he do it in that first round? That's worth looking at. But regardless, a win's a win. And at this level, if you get a win in any of those 5 rounds, if you can finish him, that's a statement in and of itself. People don't need to lose sight of that.
I think the big determining factor in why so many people are giving Tom a clear advantage over Gane, even though both their records are impressive, is that Tom has that one punch, put you to sleep power. Gane has to rely on punches and bunches and still hasn't actually put anyone literally to sleep. in the UFC since he's been here. He's gotten his wins by TKO or heel hook
Right.
or
Yep, that
decision.
Tuivasa fight comes to mind. Yeah, that was a TKO. It could have been a KO if they let it go a little longer. But to your point, he's not the one shot guy that just knocks you out.
Yeah, and it's going to be a lot harder for Gon to win on points with a guy as fast and as aggressive as Aspinall.
Yeah, I agree. That's gonna be fun. My prediction: first round submission, but I'm gonna say it goes past the magical 204 mark.
All right. I think that Vince said that Gon was going to win by buggy choke.
Oh yeah, that sounds like something he'd say.
The cool thing about this card coming up is that it's actually going to get the heavyweight division moving. We've got three heavyweight fights. We've got Alexander Volkov versus Jelton Almeida and Hamdi Adewale Hababa versus
Yep,
Chris Barnett.
yep,
I'm excited to
absolutely.
see the heavyweight division get moving again. Do you have thoughts on either of these fights?
Oh, for sure, for sure. So Jelton Almeida, uh, he is my least favorite fighter in the UFC. He takes you down, but he doesn't advance positions. He doesn't really work. I just don't like him, just from an entertainment perspective. I don't know anything about him personally, but I just for the sake of the division hope he loses to Volkov. Volkov has fought Aspinall before. Volkov is number two. Almeida's number five, so that puts him right back in an opportunity for a rematch. So that's the one thing that's the downfall. People don't necessarily want to see rematches, when we've had clear, decisive wins. But that being said, if he gets the win over Almeida, he's deserving. So maybe he puts himself right back there. But Almeida he's just not that entertaining. So that's something. I think that's a number one contenders fight. And then there's only a handful of these heavyweights that are within a fight or two of being in a title contention. Like I said, Almeida and Volkov are two of them. Of course, you have Jones and Piera. You might have a little mini tournament there. Um, who knows? But regardless, you're gonna look at that fight and you're gonna look back in a month or two and say, okay, now that we have it all figured out, now that the dust is settled, Aspinall beat Gon or Gon beat Aspinall, which is a possibility. We can keep moving, and whether Jones and Piera fight each other, or if they fight the winner of this title fight here between Gon and Aspinall, now we know where to slot Almeida. Now we know where to slot Volkov. So that's good as far as just the movement of the division. Hopefully we see an influx of more talent, but it's just exciting to have heavyweights on a card that have meaningful fights. It's been many months since we've seen meaningful fights in this division. So if you're a heavyweight fan, this is the card for you.
So my thought is I actually want Almeida to pull this one off because we've seen Gon versus Volkov. We've seen Volkov versus Aspinall. Almeida is a terrible stylistic matchup in theory for either of them. And that's going to make for a more interesting title fight than rewatching a fight that we've already seen played through once that did not go well for Volkov either time.
That's super fair. That's super fair. I'd like the stand and bang aspect, but no, that's right. Almeida, he presents different challenges. How well can Aspinall handle that? I mean, that would be something stylistically that would be interesting to see. He could really display his grappling against Almeida, and may the better man win.
Well, Aspinall's been saying that one of the things that people don't realize is we've only seen 10 to 20% of what he can do because everyone goes to sleep as soon as he attacks.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Uh, All right, what about Hamdi versus Barnett?
So I don't have a whole lot on that. What are your thoughts? I'll give you mine, but I'm curious as to yours first. Do you think anybody in this fight can put themselves a fight or two away? They're not ranked. We're talking about two guys. Barnett's a name, of course. Hamdi fighting out of Egypt. Is he on a streak? Where is he right now? As far as he's 6-1, I guess you're talking about get a win over a big name. You might put yourself in the rankings. How do you see it?
Yeah, I'm always going to be a fan of Barnett. I think that he's just an amazing guy as a human being, and he brings me a lot of joy when he fights, and especially when he wins and does the flip in the ring. Um,
Yes, indeed.
I just think it's amazing that a guy that big can be a black belt in judo and actually use it. It's magical to watch. So I'm pulling for Barnett. I hope that he can get a win out of this, maybe fight Lewis next and put some money in his pocket for fighting a big name.
Yeah. Lewis is that guy in the division that's dangling out there as the big carrot. If you're not going to get one of these, whether it be the champion or Jones or Pereira, that's the next guy. You know, we're talking about the knockout king. Everybody knows him. And while he's a top 10 guy still, you really have an opportunity to put your stamp down and really elevate your name and your brand with a win over Derek Lewis. So that's
I
the guy
see
hanging out there that, you know, a lot of people are trying to get.
I see him as the gatekeeper to the top ranks because he's not going to be a world champion again. Love the man as a person, think he's a great fighter. You're not going to be world champion, Derek Lewis. So be a gatekeeper. Keep the people who aren't supposed to be competing with the best out of contention and know that that's your station in life and be happy with it.
I'll say this about Derek Lewis. Since that is such a weak division, it does feel like he's two knockouts away, maybe even one against the right guy from being in a title fight. Don't you see that? I mean, he's right there. He's, like I said, he's a top 10 guy. If he knocks out the right two people, I mean, why
Yeah.
wouldn't he be?
Yeah, that's absolutely true. He just has to get those matchups, and he has a big enough name to throw around to get them.
Yep. And so he's going to be picky, you know. I mean, he knows he's at the tail end of his career. He's a guy he's 40 now, I believe. He's in his 40s. And so how many fights does he have left? But that's a guy you throw on a card, everybody's going to want to watch, you know. Oh, Derek Lewis is fighting. He's a guy who's headlined a bunch of fight nights, not necessarily even deservingly so at certain periods of time, but everybody loves the knockout. And that's a guy who does it better than anyone else. He's got 24 wins by knockout or TKO out of his 29. He's super exciting. So yeah, we'll see how this heavyweight division goes, but I'm curious when his next fight will be and where that'll put him with a win. But we'll see.
Not to mention, he's always entertaining. You never know what's going to come out of his mouth. Why'd you take your shorts off? Get some ground.
Exactly.
My wife's going to get some ground and pound tonight. Like, the man's a genius. If you don't, jujitsu isn't real. Just stand up. Vince
He's a
loves that
quotable
statement.
character. He's such a quotable character. And, you know, he's coming off that big win against Teixeira, the undefeated Brazilian.
Yep.
And he did it in within a minute, 35 seconds in. So, yeah, I want to see him in another big fight. I want to see him get another big name because his career's almost over. If he's going to be the guy who's going to be a gatekeeper, so be it. But I don't know if he's ready to accept that yet.
No, but if he is going to accept that and be that guy, I would really like to see him be a lot more active. And I think with the belt being on the line more commonly in the division, that everybody is going to get a lot more active trying to clamber to the top.
Yep. I look forward to seeing more heavyweight fights on these big cards.
Well,
Like I said, this division's moving.
the heavyweight champion of the UFC is supposed to be the baddest man on the planet. And right now, we just haven't had the baddest man on the planet tested sufficiently to know that that's who he is.
Yeah. He's been MIA for a long time. We got a lot of Clark Kent, not a lot of Superman lately. So it's fun to see people putting the cape back on, getting back in the octagon and doing what they're supposed to do.
And I bet a lot of them are going to be happy to get back fighting. They've had to protect their rankings for so long. It'll be nice just to be able to move up in the division or at least have the opportunity.
Absolutely. I agree.
All right, up next, we've got Mackenzie Dern, such a cutie, versus Verna Jandaroba. I don't know
Well,
anything about Verna Jandaroba, but I know Mackenzie Dern. I know her work well.
yes. Very, very, very good at the black belt in jiu-jitsu. Very good on the ground. Mackenzie Dern is somebody who's come a long way. I still think it's a weak division. So, you know, I don't know if she's necessarily deserving of this spot. She's number 5 right now in the strawweight, but somebody who brings her all every time out. Entertaining fighter, like I said. She's got 6 first-round finishes, 8 wins by submission, 15-5 is her record. I don't know much about Verna, but if it goes to the mat, I would definitely tip my cap to Mackenzie.
I'm always going to back Mackenzie because she is just such a monster. She's never failed to live up to my expectations. Even when she's lost, she's put up a good fight.
The one thing I'll say watching Dern, if she's fighting somebody who's good on the feet, she keeps her jaw out a little bit, and she's been caught a few times. I would, be interested to see, is that chin tucked or is she coming out with that chin out, because she gets rocked and some of her boxing gets sloppy. So again, she wants it on the mat, but if it is a stand-up contest, where's the chin? Because if she has it hanging out, she might get knocked out, or it's straw weight, maybe not knocked out, but get rocked, get put in a bad compromising position to where she gets taken out. It's something just, for you to keep your eyes on, keep in mind.
She may be training with Sean Strickland now that he's coaching women's MMA. May come out with that Philly shell going on.
Maybe she'll come out talking smack.
All right, up next we've got Umar Nurmagomedov. That name I can get right because I've had to hear it a million times for the last decade. Thank you, Khabib, for making your name a
Oh,
worldwide
yeah.
household name, Nurmagomedov. Sure. Against Mario Bautista.
This looks like a number one contenders fight. We talk about Marab and we talk about all the people he's beat, and now they're talking about, he's fighting Peter Yan again. O'Malley, do we need to see that a third time? No. But one guy I would like to see him rematch is Umar Nurmagomedov. Umar is the number 2 guy in the bantamweight division. Umar is a guy who was beating Marab 2-0 in their title fight. But of course, Marab, he's got the gas tank. And so it really proved its merit in that fight, like it does in almost every single fight. Umar, I thought, was more skilled. I thought he was the cleaner fighter, a cleaner striker. Of course, he got out wrestled there a little bit when he got tired and fatigued, but he's a guy with a win over Batista, and Batista's on a nice little run himself. He's either one of these guys. I think it's, fair to say this is a number one contenders match, because I don't see anybody else with all the rematches floating out there having much of a chance. Batista could give himself an opportunity to keep Marab busy. Marab's a guy who's fought 5 times now. It'll be this year, and they're looking for new blood. He's a guy, 6 submissions. He's 16-2. And, just looking at his fight history here a little bit, he fought Patchy Mix on a card here back in June. Patchy came over from Bellator. Patchy's a big name. That was a convincing win. He beat Jose Aldo. Jose Aldo, back in October of last year, Jose Aldo had a lot left in the gas tank, I'd say, even then. Of course, he wasn't the Jose from his prime, but he wasn't just completely washed to the point where it was, he's just a bum. Jose Aldo still got Jose Aldo in him. He finished him off.
He was only one retirement in at that point.
He fought Ricky Simone and handled his business there. So anyway, he's on a run. So the way I see it, Nurmagomedov probably is going to take it. I just think Nurmagomedov, we talk about that bantamweight division. I talk about how much I really admire Corey Sandhagen. I think he's a top 10 guy. Well, if I think that, then I'd have to think by default, looking at Umar Nurmagomedov, who's only got the one competed so well. That was a 3-2 type of fight. You just got to think he's going to put himself back in a position to fight for that title. But that ought to be a good one. Batista presents a lot of challenges. How do you see it?
So I think that it's going to be a solid fight. Both these guys have skills where they need them, and they're going to go out there and perform. The thing is, personally, I want to see Nurmagomedov run it back with Merab, because I feel like he was winning that fight until he wasn't.
Absolutely.
And nobody else has challenged Merab the same way. So, and I always feel strongly when you take somebody's undefeated streak, they should get a chance to run it back. If you had racked up 10, 15 wins, what did he
Right.
have? 16 before that? Give
Yeah,
the man
I
a
believe
chance.
so.
Yeah, give the man a chance to reclaim his pride. Make him earn it. Make him win this fight, but give him a chance to reclaim his glory.
And, we talk about the Mannings of football. Well, there's the Nurmagomedovs when it comes to MMA. That last name carries a lot of weight. You go out there and win. And I mean, how do you not put him right back in there? That's his only losses to the champ. And again, it was a 3-2 type of fight. I mean, it doesn't get any closer. He would be absolutely deserving of a rematch.
Yes. Plus, who else are you going to match up to Marab next?
That's just it. Talk about
Man,
wiping out a division.
yeah, he's decimated it. This would be a rematch that's worth rematching. All right, last one. Alexander Rakic versus Ashat Mirzanakov.
Yeah, well,
Mirzanakov? I don't
yeah,
know either
knock.
of these guys.
You don't know Rakic? You know Rakic. He fought on UFC 300. He fought actually in that fight. He was fighting Ankalaev. Ankalaev won the fight. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. He fought Yuri Prohafska at UFC 300. That's my fault. Yuri won that fight by knockout. Rakic is a guy who likes to stand and bang, and he lost to Yuri. He's lost to Jan Blachowicz. He's lost to Ankalaev. He's
Ooh.
been doing a lot of losing. But when you consider the names, we're talking about some of the best to do it right now. Some of the highest ranked guys currently in UFC. Jan's a little
Yeah,
bit older, but he
it's like a gymnast going, I lost to Simone Biles. You can't really
right.
be upset about that.
No, you really can't. You really can't. But he does have wins over Anthony Smith. He beat Thiago Santos, who I think is one of the forgotten guys in the sport, a guy who gave John Jones everything he wanted in one of their contests. So he's definitely beaten some qualified guys. He's number 7. He's looking to put himself back in a title fight potentially, but he will need to come out strong. I don't know if I see him winning this. He's just had such a rough time lately. Once you start putting losses together, doubt creeps in, and with doubt, if you don't think you're going to win or if you don't think you're at your best, a lot of times you've already lost the fight.
The mental battle is real. You got to have some resilience between the ears to be able to do this, though. And let's hope that he can show that kind of toughness when the time comes and doesn't crack like Sergey.
Very true. And I mean, the guy he's fighting here, I don't know much about him, but he is number 10 right there in the division. He's 15-0, 11 wins by knockout. So anytime you see that big goose egg, you got to wonder, like, is he the next guy? Is he an up and comer? He's very dangerous, clearly. So is he going to really make a name for himself off Rakic? I don't know, but I'm definitely tuning in because anybody undefeated with 15 professional fights or more is dangerous.
Absolutely. And speaking of undefeated, before Tom Aspinall busted his leg against Blades, did you know that fight with Blades would have given him the record for the longest run of wins in the heavyweight division ever?
No, but
Yeah,
wow,
and
what a statement.
he's put together 3 wins past that, including Blades. So he technically would, if his knee hadn't given out because he didn't get beat up in the fight, he would have an 8 fight unbeaten streak right now as the new heavyweight record.
That's incredible. Well, and again, people are going to have more opportunities to see Tom Aspinall. Thank God, barring some weird injury, he's going to be out there. He said it. He wants to be out there. He wants to be active. So finally, we are getting to see it. And thank the Lord. Everybody should be happy about that.
Yeah, as long as Cyril Gahn didn't watch this last week's UFC or yesterday's UFC event and get ideas about how to kick Tom in the no-no spot for an advantage.
Yeah, because they're not actually going to do anything. They'll just say, this is a firm warning.
All right. Well, we have come to the end of the podcast episode. Without Vince, we survived it, my man.
We made it through. We navigated the waters. We're missing the point guard, the quarterback, but I think we did all right, sir.
Absolutely. Do you want to do the log out or should I handle it?
I'll let you handle it, man.
All right. Well, thank you for tuning in to the Ground and Pound cast. This has been Nostradamus and Rampaging Rick. Come back next week where we'll be talking about UFC 321 and all of its detail with our quarterback Vince at the helm.
I love it. It's going to be good. Can't wait. Everybody tune in.